I'm Sean Lim, and welcome to After 10. Taxing conglomerates on their sitting cash while boosting household income in the country. The nation's new economic team is off and running to keep Korea from falling into a Japan-style slump. On today's After 10, we find out whether this bold blueprint will work. Stay with us. Well, Professor Shin, thank you so much for joining us tonight on After 10.
My pleasure.
So the economy for Korea is in for some major changes if the new finance minister really implements a lot of these policies. He was just appointed in July, and then very soon after, he announced boldly to the public his plans for the economy. And it does seem to take a bit of a different focus away from the whole export-driven, conglomerate-centric business model to one that more focuses on the domestic demand and household income. Can you tell us how this new economic team is really assessing the current economic situation?
Well, the current economic situation in Korea is in a bad shape. I think the new economic team has our same opinion with me. Many experts think that Korean economy has been in a better shape for last several years. If I add more explanation about current economic situation, the many experts think that the current Korean economic situation is very similar to the situation in Japan in the late 1980s and early 1990s, which means that we are facing the very high threats of the deflation. That deflation, I think we have to know what deflation is. Deflation is that, the domestic consumption is reducing, and then as a kind of some results of those kind of situation, the prices go down, which means that more oversupply of the products in the market, while the less demand for the market.
So nothing sells in the stores, the prices get cheaper, your investments in real estate or other holdings go down in value, and so
the income to the producers, corporate companies in Korea, has been reduced.
So it's a vicious cycle that just goes down.
So as a whole, national economy has been slowed down. Well, if this situation goes over more than 2 years, we said that economy is facing the deflation.
And it takes years to get out of that.
So the Korean new economic team think that Korea is facing such a kind of crisis. Under such a kind of understanding, the new Korean economic team just tried to refer to some suggestions made by the Federal Reserve Board, the reports. 2008, the FER, the Federal Reserve Boards in the USA, which is central bank in USA, they analyzed the causes for the 20 years economic slowdown in Japan. As I said before, the current Korean economic situation for many experts, including new economic team, have been understood to the same similar situations happening in Japan 20 years ago. According to the report, they said more aggressive the fiscal and financial policy should be taken at the time by the Japanese government. I think the new economic team in Korea, led by Minister Choi, has followed that suggestion suggested by the Federal Reserve Bank.
Here in Korea, we just had another part of the announcement from Kyung-hwan was a $40 billion stimulus package. Do you think that will have the intended effect? Is it going to be too late?
To revitalize the depressed domestic market, Well, yes, by using physical policy, the government can overcome the facing economic difficulties. The major direction of the economic policy seems to be okay, but there are something they should really consider very seriously. The first one is that, you know, when you look at the Korean market, current market, there are much money, right? But much monies are owned by the big business conglomerates. They have huge savings, internal savings, but they do not invest. They do not allow the increase of the salaries. They do not give some money in the form of the stock dividend to the stockholders. So the money has been stocked in their pockets. Right. So what I'm saying is that, of course, the government can provide more money to the market by using more aggressive physical policy. But the key point is that how they can make the consumers spend more money with the more amount of money. There are three major causes for the slowdown of the Korean economy. Well, they are some potential threats to the Korean economy. The first one is the aging society, you know, and the very huge amount household debt. You know, I mean, the economic policy unveiled by new economic team is to give more money to the household, make them have more the income. So if they spend money, the money will go to the companies, and then companies can give the more salary to the workers. So as we discussed before, it's like a start a positive circle, right?
Right.
So that is the way. But as I said before, you know, to provide the money to the market, it does not secure the consumer, more spending of the consumers. It's totally different. So the government should have to prepare some measures how help the consumers to spend more money, you know, in a market.
Right.
But this is, it requires more efforts. It requires more, detailed measures.
Can you walk us through some of the plans that are on the table and whether you think they would effectively put more money in the hands of households?
Oh, well, I think we have to remind the so-called three major objectives of the new economic team. The first one is, as we already discussed, revitalizing the domestic market. Second one is the stabilizing the livelihoods of the public. And the third one is promotion the economic innovation. Well, to deal with, to provide more jobs to the people, and then also to improve the welfare of the part-time workers. All these things are relevant to the second one, stabilizing the livelihood of the public. Well, for achieving, to achieve these three objectives, certainly the new economic team has already start to prepare for some detailed policies. Of course, some of them are already unveiled, but still we have to wait and see what kind of detailed policies they will produce, they will prepare. But definitely at the moment, I want to emphasize that, you know, they just start their efforts, they just finished drawing the big picture. But the one thing which make me uncomfortable is that they do not yet suggest or show their detailed policies. But to realize or to achieve these three major objectives, definitely the detailed measures are very, very, very important.
So the measures for, the specific measures for reducing the DTI requirements and loan-to-value ratio, basically, essentially allowing people to borrow more,
cheaper price, yes, more money.
More money.
Yes.
Is not detailed enough?
Well, that's one of the policy, actually, they already unveiled. But actually, what I wanted is these measures also, require some more consideration. Why? Because because of the deregulation of the LTV and DTI, as you said before, that the more people can borrow the more money, But we have to consider the lessons which we can get from the situation happening in USA. What happened? In 2007 and 8, they faced this serious economic crisis. But actually, if they can borrow the money, more money from the bank, but because of the many reasons, if they cannot pay back the debt or interests, what happened? It can be a kind of some fatal blow on the Korean national economies. So I think that basically there are some differences, existing differences between American cases and the current Korean situation, but definitely we have to prepare those kind of some unpredictable situation. Otherwise, we cannot avoid such a kind of some crisis.
Majority, 70 to 80% of this household debt figure is held by people who do have high incomes, and it was money borrowed to buy real estate. And that money is just locked there because the real estate market is frozen.
Yes.
But if prices start to go up, people start to sell their houses, get some profit out of it, then won't that start to roll along the economy the way the finance minister
That's very
planning?
important point. That is the scenario which the government, new economic team.
That's what they want.
Yeah, they want. But to change the people's mind, what I mean, is quite unpredictable sometimes, and then sometimes it requires some long time. What I mean? Even though they deregulate the LTV and DTI, well, people will think about the responses of the people around them, and then, even after deregulation, the LTV and DTI, we do not expect the dramatic changes in the real estate market. It will take a time. So we call it warming time, what I mean? And then to promote those kind of circumstances in real estate market, the additional efforts should be needed. For example, what I mean? There are many the regulations which have been regarded as one of the barriers. For example, is that one people can possess two houses, but if they possess two houses, and then they should keep it for the time being. Otherwise, they should have to pay the concession tax, something like that. But if they deregulate those kind of regulations and law, some people can criticize, particularly the poor people. They said that, that's the the actions, measures for only rich people, what I mean? So it's like a coin which has two sides. Deregulation, to promote the real estate market, it is very important to overcome the facing economic crisis. But at the same time, always question is by how far they can go, by how far they can deregulate the situations, because to economy is requires some comprehensive approaches.
Well, the market has responded very well to this big picture, at least. Why do you think that is? Do you think that they'll just that they're hoping that and they're trusting that the government will fill in the small pictures as it goes along?
That's a very important point. Actually, do you think the people have high trust on the government policies?
We've seen institutional trust surveys and barometers, they're low.
Yes,
they are low.
Still there are some rooms which government should fulfill. You know what I mean? That's one of the reasons, as I said before, if the government change or implement new policy, when there are no trust, people have on the government side, actually it will take more time because they don't want to be some first victim or second victim, you know what I mean? So I think considering the current situation and the relationship between the government and the people, the public, over the last several years, actually I think the mutual trust, trust which the public has on the government side has not been very strong, I think. This is the one point which you have to consider, I think.
Well, let's talk about how much trust people have in the finance minister himself. Kyung-hwan used to be the floor leader of the Saenuri party. He came in very confident, very bold, and had a very long list of measures that he seemed, very adamant on. So, can you tell us a little bit more about where he draws his power?
I think he is one of the right person personally to lead Korean economy right now, because personally he has very diverse background. He used to work for the government for more than 20 years, and then he went to the international financial organization like EBRD, and he was a chief economist over there. And then he joined to the politics, and then even he worked at one of the major daily economic newspaper as an editorial writer. Since 2004, according to the press report, he has been very close with the incumbent President Park Geun-hye. So I think he has the knowledge, and he has has strong supporter. So I think he is one of the right person at the moment to who can lead the Korean economy at the moment. And then another one is that he has, according to the report, he has a quite good human relations with many people in the various field. I think that right now, those things maybe can help him to produce some the fruitful results in an effort to revitalize the Korean economy. One of the good examples is that after he became the vice prime minister or minister of strategy and finance, he met with the governor of the Bank of Korea. Yes, and they already take their first step forward, which means that the Governor Lee and the Minister Choi, they said that they share the same idea about the Korean economy, and they even give some implication that maybe standard interest could be lowered within the near future. If the interest rate goes down, what happens? The people can borrow the money at a cheaper price. Well, the main tool which the new economic team wants to use is to provide more money, particularly to the public, to the people. And if they have more money, they can spend more money, you know. What I mean is there's the beginning of so-called positive circle which the government wants to make by implementation of the new economic policy. By lowering interest rate, certainly it will be very helpful for the government to provide more money to maximize the effects of the new economic policy. So this one is very important. And secondly, as we discussed about trust, you know what I mean? On the part of the public, when the Bank of Korea and the Ministry of Finance and the Strategy of Finance work together, they take the same stance. Definitely, maybe people can have more trust on the government.
It does seem like he made a wake-up call with a lot of these measures, especially the measure about taxing the conglomerates' cash reserves. And he was very careful about saying before it even gets implemented, that there would be a lot of discussion. Was it really more of just a jolt to wake up some of these conglomerates to say, like, wow, you know, they may be forgetting their responsibility in using this cash to make the economy grow?
Well, Minister Choi just tried to introduce the new taxing system. Well, he wants to tax the corporate internal savings. As we discussed before, well, big conglomerates have a huge amount of money in their pockets, but they are hesitating to invest or to distribute more their income to the workers or their stockholders. So government want to encourage them to spend more money. I mean, invest more and give more money to their workers in the form of salaries or in the form of the stock dividend. So I think that if I introduce this system, maybe this system is very strange to us. I mean, not familiar with us, but well, they said that out of total profits, if you spend the invest, or if you give money to your workers or stockholders lower than 60 or 70%, actually they did not decide yet the percentages, but let's say that 60% or 70%. If you spend out of total profits, if you do not spend less than 70% of profits for the purpose, I mean the salaries or stock dividend, whatever, or investment, the government will impose about the 10% in case of 10% tax on the money which they do not below, which they spend out of 70% profits. By doing so, they want to encourage the big companies to spend, invest more and give more money to their workers, give more profits, to their stockholders like this. So by doing so, as we discussed before, the new economic team wants to revitalize the domestic market by encouraging more consumption of the people.
Is it too late for some of these policies that focus on new businesses and the creative economy to work?
I don't think so. They missed the so-called golden time, but I think that I do not think that they missed the time. It's too late. Actually, to promote the economic innovation, still I think we have a chance. But there are some sequential order in implementing the policies, which means that in getting some outcomes of the new policies. The first one is the revitalizing the depressed domestic market. And second one is that we have to maintain our economic momentum in the outside, overseas. And then to achieve this goal, actually, one of the most important things, like engines of the car, is that innovation of economic innovation. So I think we have to, the government should have to think all these things at one time. To maximize the economic the effects from the implementations, they have to consider all these things together.
So finally, you mentioned that one plan won't work for a specific sub-area. There has to be sub-plans fully worked out. What else would you give as advice for this new economic team in order for them to be successful?
I think there are some critics. These measures have been prepared for the short-term objectives. So to get more support from the public, the government right now launched the new economic policy, something like that. Personally, I don't want to believe it. But the government should have to prepare those kind of economic policies on the long-term basis, not for this administration. They should think about what kind of efforts, what kind of policies they should take for the Korean economy, not for their government.
Okay, Professor Shin, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
My pleasure.
And that does it for us here at After 10. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again.
We will continue to do our best to improve our show based on the perspective of our viewers. Always feel free to leave us any comments, great ideas, or suggestions you wish to share with us.